Good morning and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jennifer and I like to make sewing videos. I'm really excited to film this video because recently I visited the thrift store. I was looking for a fabric to sew with and I usually look at the bedsheet section. I saw this yellow one in the corner of my eye and I thought it was really beautiful. So I took a closer look and thankfully it was only $3.99. And when I took it off the rack, I was looking for any holes or stains. But I found out that it was 100% linen as well, which is really good. And with that information, I knew that I had to take it home. It has been a couple days since I've last thrifted this fabric. I have washed it and dried it in high heat already. I don't know if that's the best for linen, but I just wanted it to be clean because this used to be a duvet cover. So here's all the fabric, and I'm really curious to see what size this duvet is. But this duvet cover is from IKEA, so I can probably look up the information and base it off of that. Right now what I'm going to do is lay out the fabric just to see how much fabric I'm dealing with, and then we can go from there. There's no better way to film this. I don't have a lot of space, but I'm just gonna measure the width and length to see how much fabric I'm slightly dealing with. And then after that, I'm gonna choose a pattern. I don't have a plan. I'm just going at it. And it feels freeing, okay? I usually look at the pattern first and then the fabric, but the fabric came to me first this time around, and I'm not gonna fight it. So let's measure this out and see how big this fabric is. Ugh. I need to do more push-ups. I mean, I could do a better job at this, but I just need a rough estimate. I think I will be fine. 82. So I got 82 inches on the length. I don't know. Alright. Now it's time to choose a pattern, and here I have my little pattern collection. I'm sorry about the glare, but I have them in these Ziploc bags to protect them. But I'm gonna choose a pattern to see what I should make out of this yellow fabric. I'm really excited. This is the most spontaneous I've been, I'm telling you. I look at the pattern for months and I'm thinking about the fabric, but now it's like, we got the fabric. What do I make? So this is the pattern that I'm gonna be trying out right now. Hope it works out. Okay, the way I'm going about this is a little weird, but bear with me. I'm basically just setting out the pattern to see if it fits, and it does, so that's really good. I just wanted to know in case it didn't, because then I'd have to make something else. But what I'm gonna do now is make a mock-up. Good morning, it's the next day, and yesterday I worked on the mock-up. I think it fits well. I'm gonna show y'all in a bit. Okay, so here I have the mock-up and I think it fits pretty well. I wouldn't make any adjustments. I really like this low neckline. Gives room for the décolletage. This dress is also a side zipper opening. I don't know if I would like that. It wasn't that big of a deal putting it on and off, so it might not be that annoying, but I do get annoyed when I accidentally zip up my own skin. So we'll see. I'll wear a corset to avoid that, or a tank top. I don't know. As you can see, the bottom is kind of jagged. Don't look. I didn't want to cut into all of my muslin fabric, and I kind of get a gist for the design with this. Overall, I'm pretty happy, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut into the yellow linen. See you in a bit. I put the fabric on the fold and I'm just avoiding this side because of those imperfections. I'm gonna lay out the pattern right now. I'm out of breath and I have a boo-boo now. I basically finished cutting all the fabric. I do still need some lining. I ordered it online. I got a cotton voile from Mood Fabrics and I'm waiting for that to come in the mail. Cutting fabric takes a very long time for me, at least 2 hours, and my back and gluteus maximus are on fire afterwards. But right now I do need some yellow thread for my serger and sewing machine. I also want some seam binding. I'm gonna go to Joann's right now to pick that up, and I'm gonna take Zoe with me. I went back home after getting the supplies that I needed, and I began to look over the instructions. First, I needed to sew all the darts on the dress. To finish the thread off, I tied 3 knots and snipped the excess thread away. Once the darts were sewn, I pressed the bust dart downwards. And for the waist darts, I snipped the curve, and of course my camera wanted to focus on me, sorry, and I pressed that seam towards the middle. For the rest of the night, I serged all the edges of the dress and left the bottom free. I serge it in the end when I'm hemming the dress. Good morning, it's the next day, and yesterday I worked on preparing these pattern pieces to be sewn together. I'm still waiting on the lining to arrive. I think it's coming later today, and if it doesn't, then I'll just wait a little longer. Also, I'm really nervous to see how this dress is gonna come out. I don't know if I chose the right fabric for this design, and I don't think I'm very knowledgeable with fabric weight, texture, and drape and such, because every fabric will look different based on what you make. But yeah, I don't know if I chose the best fabric, and even though I'm worried right now, I'm gonna commit because I already cut the pieces out. So we'll see. Maybe it'll look like an IKEA bedsheet with princess seams, but then so be it. I will accept that. But I think with time, I will gain the skill of finding the right fabrics for that certain pattern. So we'll see. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of stalling, but I'm gonna sew these pieces together and see how it's looking like. Here I'm pinning the sides of the dress together, making sure to match my notches. Once they were pinned, I sewed them together using a straight stitch. Then for the curves of the dress, I clipped the seam in order for it to lay flat. Right now, I'm just pressing my seams to get this dress to look more like a dress and less like a bedsheet. I usually press my seams here in this corner. I would like an ironing table soon. I feel like there's always a new purchase to make, but I'm trying to slowly gather my materials and things I want. But yeah, I do sew in our living room, dining room space. I'm happy that my boyfriend doesn't mind. I feel bad, like I'm taking up the space in our house, but I don't know where else to sew. And it just goes to show that you don't need a sewing studio or room to sew. I have seen even smaller spaces where people sew, and that's quite impressive. And I honestly can't complain. I am happy I even have a corner. Anyways, I'm gonna continue to press my seams for the next hour or so, and then I'll check in. Hopefully the lining comes in by then. We'll see. After pressing my seams, I sewed the side seam where the zipper placket is going to be, and for this I sewed outside of the circle markings I made earlier. So here's the dress so far. I just sewed all the pieces together and I'm not mad about it. I do feel like a banana, if I'm being honest. I think it's a really bright color and out of my comfort zone. I mainly wear black and white or neutrals. I don't know, I just like it, but I want to venture into color because it's a whole different fashion realm that you can play with and you can pair things together. It's fun, and although it makes me a little comfortable, I want to step out of my box and try out new things. I also just received the lining. I'm washing it and drying it right now, and once that's done, I'm going to cut out the facing pieces and continue to work on this dress. Good morning, it's the next day, and today as I was getting ready, I realized I was matching my cup, and then I'm also matching this record. I'm all blue. I'm blue da booty. And as you can see, I have been accumulating some band-aids on my hand, and I don't know what's going on. I'm usually weary. Wait, wary. Is that the word? Yeah, because a few days ago, I was cooking on the stove and it was hot, and I told my boyfriend, be weary, it's hot. And he's like, what do you mean, weary? And I was like, be careful. And he said, you mean wary? And I was like, what? That's the same thing. What are you talking about? And I looked it up and I was humbled. Anyways, I have all of my things ready to be sewn, so let's go ahead and get started with finishing this dress up. I began with serging the facing pieces of the dress. Then I sewed these pieces right sides together. For the front, I backstitched right at the circle marking because this is where the notch will be. After that, I pressed the seams open. And I sewed the facing right sides together to the neckline of the dress. Here I'm backstitching right at the circle, and then I'm continuing that stitch all the way around. I'm not sure if this is the right way. It wasn't really clarified in the instructions. Here's Zoe cheering me on. Hello, princess. Hi. When I was done sewing the neckline, I clipped the curved seam. Then I pressed the facing seam down, away from the main fabric. After that, I'm pressing the seam binding into a rounded shape because it's going to be attached to the rounded neckline. It kind of looks like a macaroni. And I sewed it in place using a straight stitch. I also understitched the facing piece so that it doesn't stick out. Then I pressed the facing down again, and honestly, ironing is 90% of the sewing process. Right now I'm hand sewing the facing to the seam of the dress so that it doesn't stick out. But I wanted to tell y'all that I signed up for a social hour event. It's pronounced social. Get it? No? Okay. But you basically go for an hour and take your crafting supplies or project that you're working on and just craft with other people. And I think it's a great way to meet other people that share the same interest as you. I think sewing is a very independent and solo activity. It's kind of hard to meet friends that do this as well. But I've already met a few people and they're really kind. And it's just nice to get out the house and, I don't know, go out. That's my version of a night out. And tomorrow they're hosting the event, so it's perfect because I have this project that I can take. And what I think I'm gonna do is hang this dress overnight for 24 hours, and then I'm gonna hem it by hand when I get there. So that probably means that I won't be able to film the hemming portion of this video, but it will be the same as the video I uploaded with the Elizabeth Taylor dress recreation. That's a mouthful. But if you want to watch how I do my hems, you can refer to that video if you like. But yeah, right now I'm gonna finish hand sewing this and catch up with y'all when I'm working on the sleeves. After I was done hand sewing, I remembered to add my clothing label. I always forget to add it, and I need to because isn't it just so cute? I moved on to the sleeves and sewed the seam first. Then I pressed that side seam open. Next, I sewed a basting stitch in between the notches. And I began to ease the sleeve into the shoulder seam. I used many pins, and I need to be wary so that I don't add another band-aid to my collection. I followed this along with the straight stitch, and then I pressed the seam towards the sleeve. Once I was done, I let the dress hang overnight. Hello! I look like I'm gonna go on a journey to save my loved one from an evil vampire. I recently watched Nosferatu and I loved all the outfits, especially what Lily Rose Depp wore. But man, that movie was scary, okay? Why am I analyzing the clothes while it's a scary movie? I don't know, I'm looking at the fits, judge me. I actually watched the original Nosferatu last year and it was performed by an orchestra with the live score. And it wasn't that scary. I was laughing a couple times as well. I think that's why older horror movies are an easier watch. Maybe it's just the effects or something, but I find myself laughing here and there. But the ones now, I'm like, alright, I'm gonna have trouble sleeping tonight. And if you think about it, the original Nosferatu made an appearance on SpongeBob, and I wasn't that scared of him then. I don't know. You tell me what you thought. Maybe I'm just a scaredy cat and I can't enjoy a good horror movie, but that was nightmare fuel, and I will watch them here and there now because they're getting better and better, okay? So let's go ahead and get started on the dress because I'm ready to sew. I got my hard-working shirt on. Let's get to work. I started on the sleeve facing piece and sewed them on the seam line. Then I pressed these seams open. After that, I sewed the facing piece right sides together to the sleeve. Hold on. Zoe! This is Zoe right now. How can I say no to that? Okay, Zoe. No, not right now. I'm sorry, I know. I'm preparing this hem so that I can hand sew it at the event tonight. I don't know how long I want it to be, but I guess I'll just go based off of the shortest piece. And I'm saving the hand sewing of the hem and the sleeves to do tonight. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue to do this off camera and I will serge it afterwards. Later that night when I got back home, I decided to play some music and work on the zipper. I used a vintage dress placket zipper and it comes with its own instructions, which is pretty nice. I pulled out my book and turned to the page where it explains how to sew a dress placket zipper. I usually cross-reference this book when I'm learning something new because it has a little more detail and images as well. First, I did a basting stitch on the zipper. Following that, I faced the zipper teeth up and sewed a straight stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the zipper teeth. And the next step was to sew all around the seam placket. After sewing the zipper in place, the dress is finally ready for the reveal. Time for the wrap-up portion of the video. I decided to film outside because it's nice weather. It is a little cold. You might be wondering why I'm wearing a summer dress, but here it's still around 65. I can manage, but in a couple weeks I won't be able to wear something like this. So for the dress, I have no complaints. I love it. I think it looks really gorgeous, and this princess seams is really beautiful, and the fabric was a thrifted bedsheet. I know that's not very mind-blowing. People have used secondhand fabrics in the past to make clothing, but I'm really grateful that I found that at the thrift store for $4, not $8, for $4. We have this one lawyer that puts the 4 out, and I always make fun of him. Yeah, for only $4. So that's really good. And linen is very expensive, so this saved a lot of money. But even though the fabric was only $4, I still spent a lot of time and labor, and the labor cost is what really drives up the price if I were to ever sell something like this. But of course, with fast fashion as well, garment workers are not being paid a livable wage. If anything, they're being paid pennies the hour, and I'll link some sources down below. But I think that's really skewed our mindset on how much clothing should cost. I'm not trying to shame others if fast fashion is all that they can afford. It's more about sharing knowledge and information. I think it's really valuable because, again, before I sewed, I did not know the amount of time and money that went into a garment. So yeah, I guess that's it. I do not want to come off as rude or anything, but I think it's really important to understand still. And anyways, for the garment, if I were to sell it, I did keep a list. I will show y'all. Hold on. This pricing isn't accurate. This isn't like a company level or anything. And if I used items more often, then the cost per use would go down. For example, my pattern, if I used it more, then that price would be cut down. Let me look it up. Oopsie. I'll put the prices on the left side, but my pattern was from eBay. It was $15. My lining was from Mood. That was $18. My Joannes Trip that included the serger, sewing thread, bias binding, and needles was $20. My vintage zipper was $3. I got it on Etsy. And the fabric, of course, was that $4 fabric. The total of that was $60, so that's just the materials. But that's where we get into the labor cost. I believe I spent about 12 to 14 hours on this garment. So if we're going based off of the livable wage where I live, it's $20.92. And I guess I'll go off of 12 hours. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know how to do math off the top of my head. 12 times $20.92. So it would be $251.04 on the labor alone, plus the $60 of materials and supplies. That's $311.04. That's a lot of money. And another thing that companies account for that I saw online is the profit margin. So that could be about 50% of the cost that you already set it at. And you also add the overhead cost as well. So how much you... Oh no, there's the airplane. We wait. The sun's going down. I'm scared. There's also overhead costs, so how much it takes to run your business, like keeping the sewing machines maintenance and the tools that you need. I always find myself making a new purchase to improve my sewing skills, so that would be accounted for. But basically this dress would be easily maybe over $350, which is a ton of money. I completely understand. I cannot go buy a $350 dress right now, but it just goes to show the amount of time and effort that goes into a garment that is not being accounted for with that wage. But yeah, it's pretty insane. Either way, again, I'm not trying to shame others if fast fashion is all that they can afford. I do thrift a lot. That helps me to afford clothing that I want that's higher quality. And I also picked up sewing, but there is privilege in that, to have the time and money to nurture that hobby. I just wanted to mention that in the video to educate. I'm also not perfect consumer. I definitely make unsustainable purchases, but it's still good to know how much a garment should cost, because if you go out and buy clothing and wonder why is it so much, like maybe you can account that and then figure out if it is worth it to you. It's getting dark now, so I guess that's the end of this video. I really appreciate y'all for watching till the end, and I hope y'all have a great day. Bye!